Greetings, people. I come in peace. Never underestimate the power of stupidity. You can take the boy out of the ghetto, but can you take the ghetto out of the boy? Jarrell Miller approached Eddie Hearn at the end of the Day of Reckoning press conference. I remember seeing Jarrell whispering in Eddie's ear and wondering to myself, I wonder what that's about. Well, it turns out that Jarrell Miller asked Eddie if he was scared. Eddie apparently retorted that he's not scared of him. To that, Miller said, "Why didn't you back me like you did Conor Ben?" The difference is unmistakable. You had multiple substances you not only had to ingest, but inject. Eddie just simply said, "Because I don't believe you," which is fair enough. Eddie also stated that Miller went on to say, "The next time you're in New York, I'll pull up on you or get somebody else to pull up on you." Now, for those of you who are not familiar with this vernacular, it's a colloquialism that means an imminent threat of violence should be expected when I see you again or perceive you are in my proximity, i.e. in my district, area, precinct, territory, neighborhood or province. So this knucklehead has the temerity to question why Eddie didn't back him. Is he obtuse? It's a silly question. Of course he is. If you remember, Jarrell Miller messed everything up. It was AJ's debut in America. There was a big build-up. There was trash talking, AJ getting pushed at the face-off, AJ telling him that he's his landlord. It was a great build-up. He's a Mr. Landlord. Can't get the pressure out your yard. Whoa, no. And then the pig baby struck. Got caught with all the top obvious steroids in his system. It was so ridiculous. People thought he wanted to get caught on purpose just to get out of the fight with AJ. I don't know about that, but he must have been so insecure about his chances that he took drugs that were even harmful and deadly to himself. And he even had the gall to say AJ was on steroids. It's the same thing Dillian White did. They like to paint people with the same brush as themselves. Now, why would Eddie have any time for you? It was due to Miller why Andy Ruiz upset the apple cart and handed AJ his first loss. Who knows what would have happened if Miller didn't drop the bag? Well, we're here now, and instead of holding his head down in shame, Miller tries the bully boy tactics. It didn't work though. You can't be wrong and strong. You're not going to be able to intimidate individuals because you're big. It's not school. You're a boxer, not a gangster. I wish people would make up their minds who they want to be in life. Eddie isn't going to be spooked by that type of talk. I think he just doesn't take it seriously, and he shouldn't. But some individuals can be very petty, and that pettiness can lead to unnecessary friction. If you remember, Leonard Ellerby said similar things to Eddie, and Eddie brushed it off. I think some Americans who haven't travelled a lot think people are inherently scared of them. Some people believe that because they had a tough upbringing, that it means they can rattle people who didn't. Well, it doesn't always work like that. Let's admit it, Americans do like to talk a lot, and that's not always a bad thing. It's great when you're with your therapist. Other than that, the lesser said the better. I remember a woman I knew in the 90s telling me that they were going to have a relative from New York to come and stay with them for a couple of weeks. She was from Brixton in London at the time, and her family had to warn the relative that it's not like New York. You can't be unnecessarily rude and castigate people and have a small back and forth and move on like nothing's happened. It's different here. Surprisingly, the escalation time in some British towns and cities surpassed that of even New York. I say that to say this. Nobody fears juvenile threats from a grown man that professes to be a professional athlete and earns hundreds of thousands of dollars while doing it. Funny enough, or should I say sadly enough, if it was a threat from a real juvenile delinquent, we'd have to be a tad bit more cautious. Anyway, threatened men live long. So the saying goes. Miller should count himself extremely fortunate to be in this position and needs to get over himself. He's already in a precarious position and he doesn't need to do something or say something that won't only get him a band, but this time could land him in prison. He's just daft enough though. Anyway, thanks for listening. Please subscribe and remember, choose life.